The growing humanitarian crisis in Ukraine is having a dire impact on the country's orphan population.
An estimated 100,000 children live in orphanages and institutions across Ukraine. According to UNICEF, more than 4 million children have been displaced since the war broke out 1 month ago. That's about the population of Los Angeles. However, as millions of kids and parents rush to flee the violence, the majority of Ukraine's orphan population remains trapped within the country. For more on this, let's bring in Rick Morton for more. He is the Vice President of Engagement at Lifeline Children Services. Rick, thank you so much for joining us.
Adriana, thank you for having me.
So we know this is a topic that you hold near and dear to your heart. You personally adopted 3 children from Ukraine 19 years ago, and you've been back and forth more than 24 times since then. How is this invasion impacting the adoption process for one of the country's youngest and most vulnerable citizens? And how are they faring for the most part?
Well, the war has essentially halted adoptions from Ukraine. Currently, the organization that I work with had a family that was supposed to have a virtual court hearing the very day that fighting broke out, and the court was not able to happen because there was actually active shelling that forced the judge and all of those that were a part of the proceeding into a bomb shelter. Right now, the focus is really on providing humanitarian aid to orphanages and to orphans and to families that are fleeing, just trying to stabilize the situation at this point. I think at some point we hold hope that there will be an opportunity for adoption to continue from Ukraine, but honestly, that's really a hard thing to predict and a hard thing to see at this point with the extreme difficulty that we're seeing in the crisis.
So, this situation, obviously, with the war makes it different than what any other country is dealing with when it comes to orphans and adoptions. What can be done now to help these kids?
Well, I think right now we need to focus. Adoption is really not the answer for most of the orphans in Ukraine. It's estimated that 90% of the 100,000 orphans that are institutionalized in Ukraine are actually social orphans. And that means that they have living families, have living parents. They're there for a variety of reasons, including some of these children are actually children with special needs that are receiving special schooling and special services in the orphanage. But honestly, they have families that they're going home to on the weekends and spending time with outside of the time that they're being schooled in the orphanage. I think right now we need to focus on the immediate needs of these children, as you said at the top of this time together, that there are now 4.4 million children in Ukraine that are displaced either internally or externally. All of those children are being traumatized, but orphans, that 100,000, they're being traumatized again. And literally there's difficulty on top of difficulty being layered onto these children. And so we need to be thinking about food, clothing, and shelter and providing safety for them. But we also need to be thinking about felt safety and really entering into and helping them process the trauma that they're going through, because that's going to have an effect that's going to last long beyond what we hope is the end of this conflict.
What can folks do who want to try to help these children? Obviously, they are trapped in Ukraine, and as you mentioned, they are vulnerable and are dealing with the impacts of not being with their families full time or at all, and now this war. What can people do? What is your organization doing for these kids? And do you have a sense if, by and large, most of the children in orphanages are safe?
We're working with partners in the countries surrounding Ukraine to bring immediate need food, clothing, and shelter to refugee families. Also, there are many orphanages, particularly private orphanages, that have been evacuated out of the country, and so providing resources for them. Lifeline is marshaling together forces and resources. We're actually taking supplies back into southern Ukraine, into the Odessa region, as well as supplying in Romania. I think what I would say to people is work with organizations that have a long track record and have a reputable track record with regard to working in Ukraine. There are a lot of things. Children are particularly vulnerable in a crisis like this. And really, there are many people that present themselves as being healthy options and present themselves as having the ability to make an immediate, huge difference in the lives of children. And very often those are people that are cutting corners. They're not working in ways that are healthy for children. And in some cases, they're actually adding to child trafficking and the victimization of children. And so we want to be very careful. I think the other thing is not to believe that the answer for most of the children in this crisis is adoption. I think many times we rush to the conclusion that there are children that are being deprived of their parents. It's really too early for us to tell at this point. Children have been separated from their parents and are in need of temporary care, but we need to know a lot more before we begin to make permanent decisions for children and to care for them in ways that have long-term implications.
Rick Morton, we are out of time. Thank you. A fascinating conversation.
Thank you.